Now you can take control of your game right now from your smartphone, tablet, or desktop. Just go to www.parbreakers.com/e-learning. That's www.parbreakers.com/e-learning. Your game will thank you for it. Welcome to Breaking Par with Bernard Sheridan, the golf instruction podcast that helps you take control of your game. Now, here's your host, the founder of Par Breakers Golf Academy and certified Golf Channel Swing Fix instructor, Bernard Sheridan.
Hi, and welcome back to Breaking Par. I'm your host, Bernard Sheridan. I'm glad that you're here today. And today our episode is number 73, and we have a guest who appears on the Golf Channel. He is the host of Lesson T Live. He also has a book out called Slice Busters, and that's Brian Crowell. Now, this video was taped the day before the Masters this year, 2015, and we're airing it right after the U.S. Open, which is really kind of cool. So, Brian is a great guy. This video is going to be really informative, because we're also going to see some demonstration of Brian as to what he does to help you get that ball in the fairway. So, without any further ado, let's get right down to it. Here's our interview with Brian Crowell. So, Brian, welcome to Breaking Par. It's so glad to have you here today and for you to give us some insight on all the knowledge that you have in the golf game.
Bernard, thank you so much. This is an honor to be here. Like I said to you, I'm normally in your chair, so this is a treat for me to be a guest, and this is my first Skype interview, so you never forget your first. I'm a Skype virgin, Bernard. I mean, this is big for me. This is a big day, but thank you very much. I really admire what you're doing for golf, and I'm excited to be a part of the show.
Well, I feel the same way about you, Brian. I mean, there's a lot of things that you're doing to help golfers out there. And now that you're with the Golf Channel, you're getting a little bit more visible, and that's great. I've seen you and known about who you are probably for about 4 years now through different little things that you've done that are on the web and things like that, and have always admired you and some of the things that you've done like on YouTube and things like that. So that's how I kind of found out about you, and then I thought, you know what, I got to get this guy on the show because this guy's got a lot of great info to put out there.
Well, thank you. This is great, and we share a number of friends in the golf industry too. We talked about Lou Guzzi a few moments before we started the show, but I just think that you and I are thinking the same way about growing the game, and I think it all circles back to entertainment. You have to have fun. You have to have a huge bunch of ways to promote and present the game so that a lot of people just enjoy it, and that's what we're trying to do.
No, I agree. I mean, and I think that if we can make it more fun, because that's what it is, a game, and it's supposed to be fun. I think some people take it just a little bit too seriously, but if they can make it fun, they can have a lot more enjoyable times, and then there's so many ways that you can take golf and use it in your life. For not only lessons learned, but a lot of other things, you know, business prospects, things like that.
And I think in this day and age, of course, with everyone on cell phones and tablets and computers, and everyone can be reached so easily for business and for pleasure. So time just seems to be much more valuable. It's harder to find people that can dedicate 4 or 5 hours to a round of golf. So some of the stuff we're doing, I'm very fortunate to be the head golf professional at Glen Arbor Golf Club up here in Westchester County, New York. But what we're trying to do is find little blocks of time that work for everybody. So we have a little short course, a 9-hole course that we worked around our practice facility. So if parents have kids or want to come over themselves and work on their game, there's a little hour block of time. Not enough time to play 9, but you could come over and play the short course. If you've got a little bit more time, 9-hole events, those are huge. And then we can do 6-hole twilights, couples events, different formats. We're trying everything we can to reach as as wide an audience as we can, because golf just needs to be a little more creative in my mind. We've got to do everything we can to keep it fun, exciting, and squeeze into the time that people just don't seem to have a whole lot of these days.
Yeah, it's funny, but I think too that since the way that time is with kids, we try to keep our kids as busy as possible. A lot of times, because most of the time in this day and age, there's two people working in the family. In other words, both mom and dad are working. So those kids, their time has to be filled up as much as possible. And then, of course, on the weekends, they have all these other activities that they want to do, too. So that doesn't leave a lot of time always for golf, unless golf is one of their main activities. So, and of course, since you and I are both in this industry and are trying to help people play better, we're always going to try to make that as part of one of their big activities. I think it's, in my opinion, one of the greatest that there is to be an activity, because there's so much to be learned.
Yeah, and it's you learn a lot about yourself when you play golf. You learn a lot about the people you play with, and it's one of those, we've said it 1,000 times, but life lesson type sports where there's honesty, there's integrity, but above all else, I think it's really a great way to spend time with family. It's a great way to visit some of the most beautiful places in the world. Golf is a map of treasure troves of destinations. It's just beautiful. Everywhere you go, if you want to see the most beautiful part of that area, it's usually a golf course, and it's a great way to see the world and like I said, spend time with family. And some of the best times I've had on a golf course were with my son, my daughters, my wife, my dad. So I just think it's really a special thing, and you can play it, of course, until who knows when. I'm not even going to give an end to it, but you can't really go out and play pickup basketball at age 85. Generally, golf is a rare opportunity to compete and enjoy a sport for your entire life.
I totally agree, and I know that I had when I was at a little 9-hole golf course, which we were actually speaking with about before we went on the air. There was a gentleman there who was 96 years old and would play twice a week and walk 9 holes. And I thought, like, I would just be happy if I was walking at 96,
right.
let alone, and not in a wheelchair, or even to live that long. And then God bless him to be out there. And then he would tell us stories about when Ben Hogan would come to the club and do a demonstration with George Fazio and things like that. It was like, wow, holy moly, this is awesome.
It is cool. And golf is so special in other ways as well. You could add up all the charity activity of Major League Baseball, NFL, NHL. You could add them all together, and you're not going to get as much of an impact as golf can make. So golf really gives back better than any. We can see the great programs like Folds of Honor and the Wounded Warrior and PGA Hope, where you're actually seeing disabled veterans and folks across the country, not just involved in the military, but they're using golf as a therapy and a way to get back into action. And it's just got so many great applications. Makes me proud to be a PGA pro.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's an absolutely a wonderful sport that crosses all different walks of life and all different things in life in general. So let's get down to some instruction and talk about that, because you're a guy who really is dedicated a lot of his life to that subject and getting people to stop the ball from taking off in the wrong direction, which happens to so many of us.
I know.
And even no matter what level player we are, you look at even these PGA Tour pros and the guys who are out there competing this week, and they have the same problems happen to them occasionally too, which I think is another thing that makes golf so great, is that we can all feel like we hit one exactly like Jordan Spieth, and then feel like we hit one exactly like I don't know, Joe Schmo from in the next shot. So tell us.
It can be a humbling game.
Oh my gosh!
But I'll tell you here. I'm sorry to step on you there, but the interesting thing, and I'm going to bare my soul here for a second, Bernard, because I was once a slicer. I really feel that that gives me an edge. When I was in high school, I loved golf, but I played this huge, ugly banana ball. I aimed down the left side of the rough and let it curl back into the fairway. And I would come up to a dog leg left, and it would make me almost get ill. And, you know, the slice nearly drove me out of the game. Now, a friend of mine came up to me in college and said, you know, all you need to do, Brian, are make a couple little adjustments. And he put me in a position that I'm going to share with you and your viewers. And it was just astounding. I instantly got that feeling of pure contact. You could feel the ball compressing. Natural power and energy just exploded off the face. So all of a sudden, literally in a day, I found the light. I saw the light. I felt what it was like to hit a ball the way a ball is supposed to be struck. That man, by the way, was Paul Radetsky, still a very good friend of mine. He lives down in Florida. But I took what Paul told me and basically turned it into a career. It got me on the path to become a PGA professional, and it also, as I'm teaching now for nearly 25 years, the slice and all the different maladies that are related to the slice all come down to a few very simple positions. And once you figure these positions out, your life can change. And it did for me. I went from shooting mid-90s to mid-70s in less than a month. Okay, I want your listeners and viewers to hear that. It doesn't have to be a long, arduous process. It went from 90s to 70s in a month. And there are people out there that can have that same degree of success. So I'm excited to share it with people, and it's why I wrote this book. You ready for a little promotion? Here it comes.
Absolutely.
My assistant would go crazy if I didn't show you this. But Slice Free Golf is really been a fun project for me, and it's something I am anxious to give some tidbits to you and your folks here.
That's fantastic. So tell us a little bit about one of the first things that a player should do to avoid hitting a slice, and let all our listeners out there in Par Nation know.
Well, one of the most important things, and I don't want to bore people too much with the setup, but it is important to have those parallel lines. You want to have your feet and your knees and your shoulders parallel to the target line. But the key is, especially, let's talk about a right-handed slicer. Okay, the right-handed slicer becomes very dominant with their right side, and the right forearm rises up, and what they tend to do is see the flight starting left and curling right. So whether they want to or not, their shoulders start to aim left. Okay, and I'm going to actually get up here. This is going to be a little dangerous, but so what I've been talking to my students about is letting go of the golf club, turn your shoulders as if they're going more to right field, and then take your grip. Now, the sequence here is critical, Bernard, of course, because if they take their grip and then turn their shoulders toward right field, the face of the club will open up. And this is not acceptable. You got to let go, turn to the right, then take your grip. Now, it's going to feel a little bit stronger. I haven't changed your grip, but I've changed the proximity of the grip to the face. And that's very, very important. And if we can get that setup position comfortable for your listeners, your viewers, they are now set up for some exciting golf. It's not the total cure, but it's very exciting. And I'll share with you the next step. And I'm going to use a little more imagery.
Okay.
You know, listen, you're a teacher. You've been instructing and helping people with their golf games for years. And
Yep.
I'm a huge fan of imagery and using the power of visual assistance. So I've been talking to people once they get into that position, and hopefully they remember, let go of the club, shift your shoulders to right field a little bit, then take your grip with that club face nice and square. But now the idea is, can they make a full swing and return to the ball with patient shoulders? That is the essence of this whole thing, patient shoulders. And what I tell my students is, I'd like you, when you come back to impact, have your chest looking at or behind the ball. And I found myself saying this all the time. The slicer wants to turn that chest past the ball really fast so they can start it left and fade it into play. So if I can get them to get the proper setup, let go, turn here, then take your grip, then make a swing and keep their chest looking behind the ball, you've got a whole new life in golf. And I took that to a different degree. Here's my, I went to Syracuse University. Sad that they aren't in the March Madness this year. I'm not going to go on. That could be a whole show in itself. But my art school teachings have helped me with this. So I literally, in my book, Slice Free Golf, I talk about this image of your chest looking behind the ball at impact.
So let's just, for a little quick one, I want to interject here.
Yes.
For our listeners who are only listening to this on iTunes and are not going up to our YouTube channel to look at the video, what Brian is doing is he's taking an eye, a picture of an eye, and he's placing it on his chest, and he's having the eye look behind where the ball would be as his arms start to come down through into the impact area. So now he's actually going to have to swing that club from the inside. There's no way that he's going to be able to cross the line and throw it over the top.
Has to happen. And Bernard, you know as well as I do, the tendency of the slicer is their chest will begin to rotate forward way before they strike the ball because they're worried about going right.
Yep.
I understand why they do it, and I'm not saying this is a piece of cake, but if you can trust the setup, let go of the grip, turn so that your chest is facing more behind the ball at address, then take your grip, and then think of that eyeball. Think of, as I come back into impact, my chest is still looking behind that ball. And if you get that feeling, man, you start to just crush the ball. It's exciting what people can do.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, you went from 90s to 70s in a month using these few little tips here. And I think that what it is, like you just said, it doesn't happen automatically. But if you work on that little bit of wisdom there and hit the range and try to make that happen, and if do that 2-3 times a week for a month, you're going to start to see some results just kind of fall into place, and you're going to start to feel the correct motion, and you're going to build that muscle memory.
Yes, and I do think you're right. This is all going to be assisted by proper practice habits and trying to simulate a round of golf at the range. Now, I've been fortunate to work for CBS Sports, and I'm excited to get down to the Masters here, and I can't believe it's a week now. But when you go and watch the best players in the game warm up, what you will see is they change targets frequently. And I'm talking about curing a slice, which might require some repetition. But ultimately, when you want to get to that next level, you need to make your practice a little bit more like your play on the golf course. If you can do that, I mean, I see people hitting 7-irons, 60, 70 7-irons in a row, and then they go to the first tee. And obviously, you're never going to be hitting shots in that succession on the golf course. So I always say at the end of your practice time, before you go to the course, imagine the course you're about to play. And I can picture all the holes at Glen Arbor Golf Club. So before I leave the range, I'll hit a driver, I'll hit a hybrid, and I'll hit a sand wedge. There's hole number 1. And now I go to my second hole, and I'll hit a hybrid, and I'll hit an 8-iron. Beautiful. Now I go to my third hole. I hit a 5-iron. So I can literally play the course virtually at the range before I get to the first tee. If more people did that and mixed it up a little bit and actually evaluated themselves as if they were playing a round of golf, they would get better.
I totally agree with you 100%. I know that for me, with my students, what I always ask them to do is never hit more than 2 balls with the same club. I have them as just to start their session, just run through their bag, wedge to driver, hit all their odd clubs, hit all their even clubs, then pull out an old scorecard and play the holes.
Yep.
And make that the rest of your practice session. So now what they're doing is they're trying to visualize shots, they're trying to hit specific shots to specific targets, and then look at where it would end up. And then hit the next shot in. So like you said, instead of pulling a ball over, hitting it, pulling a ball over, hitting it, pulling a ball over, hitting it. So, and what I kind of understand what some guys are doing, they're trying to feel a groove to get their timing and tempo. But the problem is when you go out to play golf then, you don't have that opportunity on the golf course to hit a bunch of balls in a row, and you really don't want to do that anyway.
No. Yeah, we would prefer you didn't do that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that absolutely that makes a huge difference in being able to accelerate your learning curve, or in other words, accelerate your opportunity to play better golf.
And I'm going to take it a step further, even, Bernard, and say it's very helpful to challenge yourself, create some competition for yourself. At our driving range at Glen Arbor, we're lucky to have a bunch of target greens. But let's just say you're at a golf facility that doesn't have a green to aim for. Maybe there are 2 flags that you can land your ball between. And sit there and challenge yourself. Say, you know what? I'm not gonna move to my next club until I hit 3 shots that land between those 2 flags. Or I'm not gonna go to my next club until I hit 3 shots that stay on that green. And if you start to challenge yourself, we have a green that's maybe 140 yards out, and I'll say, I want to see how many you can hit in a row there. And I have some of my junior golfers are 7, 8, 9. I mean, they're getting better and better. But if you give them a personal best, it makes everything more interesting. They're still thinking about what they need to think about with their golf swing, and they're working on what we've been teaching. But to add that element of challenge and competition is excellent. Everybody should be doing it. And see how many can I get in a row. And if that's great, then you start challenging yourself and you get to different levels. It's fun.
Well, it helps you move to the next level, because what you're doing is you're trying to beat something that you did before. And
exactly.
I think that's really what golf is about, and as an individual, we're not playing against as much other people's scores as we are our own score, and trying to better it all the time.
Yeah, and again, as far as I'm concerned, the most successful golfer is a golfer that's enjoying it and wants to come back. I know some folks that will remain nameless that shoot beautiful rounds of golf in the low to mid 70s and get so angry and frustrated, I'm not even sure they're going to come back. I mean, I'd rather have someone shooting 110 and can't wait to get back to the golf course. It's all about having fun. I mean, granted, there are people out there that are playing golf for a living, but the vast majority are supposed to be enjoying themselves. So don't set the bar too high too fast. Have fun with it and just keep coming back. And if you can find those we used to do a little scorecard challenge as well. If you're a bogey golfer, that's great. Just see how many pars you can get today. That's it. Don't worry about the score. I don't care how many triples or quads or snowmen you have on the scorecard. How many pars did you have today? And that may be a different way for you to evaluate yourself. If you're a 4 handicap, a 5 handicap, how many birdies did I have today? It's a different way to keep score, and I think sometimes it can take the pressure off, especially in the beginning levels of play.
What do you think about, Brian, people playing from tees that really playing from the correct tees? I think that a lot of guys, and not as much gals, because gals I don't think put their ego ahead as much as guys do. I think that guys have a tendency to put their ego a little bit more ahead, and they might be playing from, let's say, the blues when they should be playing from the whites. Or I see a lot of senior players. I have some who are in their 70s, and they'll say to me, you know what, I finally gave up and I moved up to the senior tees this year. I'm like, you're 74 years old. You could have moved to the senior tees 10 years ago, and it would have been okay. I mean, so what do you find about that, and how do you think that would really make a huge difference in how much fun they're really having out there?
Oh, listen, it has great advantages on a number of levels. One of them is speed of play. I think it's going to keep the rounds of golf moving a little bit quicker. It's taking certain hazards out of play, and certainly more importantly, I think they're going to have more fun making better scores and having more opportunities for birdies. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like you're less of a person for going up a set of tees. I just want to have fun. When I play with my son, Kevin, he's up at Syracuse and plays for their club team. Everything is the tips. I mean, he's one step in from the back of the championship tee because he wants the whole experience. I want to play it from the tips, play it all the way back. And I'll say, you know what, I'll join you. I'm going up a set because for me, I have a certain yardage that I'm comfortable from and I enjoy. I don't feel like hitting hybrids into par fours all day. That's a drag.
No, I totally agree. And I think that's right what you just said there, hitting hybrids into par fours. And what I try to say to my students is, especially the older guys who are closer to our age, and I say to them, look, if you look at a tour pro, they're never hitting more than maybe a 9-iron into a par four. It's a rarity if they are. And so whatever tee you need to be at to hit, let's say, an 8-iron or better into the green, that's the tee you should be playing from, because that's going to make it where your strength level, your ability level is right there with a tour pro and his. So now you can compete against him.
If that player misses a drive, they're hitting a 4-iron or a hybrid into the green. If you're back from a set of tees that you don't belong at and you miss a drive, you're laying up on a par four. And now you've got a whole different type of game, frankly. And I agree with you, Bernard. I think it would be nice to get somewhere in the middle of the bag as an approach. I mean, it's not going to be that way all the time, but I think that's a nice flavor for a par four. And that way, if you miss it, you've got a challenge with a longer iron. If you really nail it, maybe you can go with a 9-iron or a wedge. I just think there's more fun in the game that way. And it's going to take some time because, as you know, there's an ego element to moving forward. There's also a handicapping element. Guys who have been 15 handicaps their whole lives, and now they go forward and they might be a 10 or a 12, and they feel like they're giving too many strokes to their buddies.
It's a
challenge. It takes a little while to get there, but I think ultimately there is a more fun version of golf from a shorter set of tees.
Well, I know that, Jack Nicklaus used to, at the beginning of every season, say that he would actually play from the Reds in the very first round of the season to kind of not only up his confidence level, but see, like, how can he score, really beat down the golf course from that shorter distance, and then go back and play the next round from his normal tees. And he felt that was a huge confidence builder. Maybe some of these guys should try that too. I mean,
it's funny. I don't know if you remember back when Susie Whaley qualified for the TPC River Highlands. It was the Greater Hartford Open. She was one of the first women to qualify for a PGA Tour event. I think Annika beat her to the punch that year by a couple months. But the point was, I went to Susie and said, "Boy, I bet you're going to practice a bunch of 3-woods and hybrids because you're playing from these tees here in a PGA Tour event." She goes, "Just the opposite." And just what you said about Jack Nicklaus. She goes, "I've been playing from the forward set of tees to build my confidence, make a lot of birdies," and she played very well in that Greater Hartford Open. Didn't make the cut, but really performed nicely because the confidence was high. It's nice to go out there knowing you can make a bunch of birdies.
Yeah, well, I mean, don't you believe that that confidence is just a major, huge part of this game and being able to play well?
Oh, without question. And we're seeing issues with Mr. Woods these days when things that used to be so comfortable and relaxed and commonplace are now a challenge. The bigger issue can become that space between the ears where you're not confident. You aren't sure what is going to happen with the ball, and that takes you to a different place. You're right. Confidence is huge. I always tell people before they leave the putting green, go up to 2 or 3 feet away and make a bunch of putts in a row before you go out there. I like to hear that ball rattle around in the cup a little bit before I go to the golf course.
Yeah, I know that for me, when I go out to play, which is not a lot, just because I have so many things going on with teaching and things like that, I work a lot more on my students' game than I do on my own. But I do that same thing. I try to get my confidence level as high as possible so that way when I go out and play, I feel a lot more confident and I end up playing a lot better. Even though I don't play a whole lot, let's say as much as someone who might play on a 2-3 times a week, and I might play oh my gosh, 2 or 3 times a season if I'm lucky anymore.
Yeah, I know.
But it's it's tough. And then there's certain times though that I have these little windows of opportunity to get out there and play because it might slow down a little bit, like in the fall or this time. Well, this time of year it doesn't, but at the end of the season as they're winding up, since I'm in the Pennsylvania area, and you probably have that same thing. Kind of like November, October-ish, November-ish, it starts to, at least lesson-wise, it slows down a little bit, and people are getting ready for the holidays, and that's when I quick jump out there and, or I'll block my schedule out and go, like, I'm going to get out there and play because I'm just chomping at the bit to finally hit the golf course and just have some fun.
Yeah, this has been a tough year. We've got snow on 13 of 18 greens at Glen Arbor. We were scheduled to open this week, and it's going to be at least a couple weeks more, I think, before we can get golfers out there. So a lot of people chomping at the bit. Not just you, Bernard, and not just me. So we're anxious here. Once the Masters clicks on TV, that's a whole. I mean, that sort of jump starts the golf season, as far as I'm concerned. That's when things really get rolling. I'm really excited to get down there to Augusta. And by the way, I've got another visual aid. You ready?
Great, ready.
Bring some more people to the YouTube site or to see your podcast, but. Here we go. So one of the things I see, and this is something that our friends up here in the Northeast can work on, but I see a lot of people when they're putting, and they do a little cantilever thing, a little counterweight deal. So I'm seeing a lot of people, as they take the putter back, they tilt down too low with their spine this way, and on the through stroke, they tilt through that way. And that leads to a lot of poor contact, a lot of difficulty with speed. So everybody out there who can't yet play your golf course, go into the living room, get your putter, get a ball, and I want you to try and think of your eye line staying very steady with the putter. And whatever address position you take, just imagine you're keeping your eyes nice and steady through the stroke. One of the things I do to help with that, I don't know if your viewers got a little, see that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm bringing Steve Martin into your program here a little bit, but the old arrow through the ears, and I do this with the junior kids a lot, but I don't want that arrow to be tilting this way and that way. Can they make a putting stroke with that arrow staying nice and level? And boy, does the contact improve. It also helps with some pitching and chipping as well. So, yeah, I'm trying to throw things at you, Bernard.
No, and that was a great visual. Yeah. And if they do hop up on YouTube to see that, what I noticed immediately was that now all of a sudden your shoulders were rotating around your spine more, as opposed to your spine tilting in the path of the swing, which is really a huge thing in what's going to happen with the bottom of the swing arc and where you're going to make contact with that ball.
The importance of this, and with a more full swing, I like to just have a little tilt with the eyes, actually, just to match my spine. But I want to do all with putting. When you're close to the green and your shoulders get a little more level, that's when you can really get a lot out of this arrow through the head idea and keeping the eyes nice and level. But the point is, regardless, you establish that spine angle at address, and then it's more of a rotation around it. If I get up into the full swing, and again, in the book, Slice Free Golf, we talk a lot about finding that solid axis and rotating around it. It's that proper setup that just gets you all ready for success.
Absolutely. So since we're recording this the week before the Masters, and unfortunately for us, it's not going to air until well after the Masters is long done. But just give us a little bit of what's going to happen when you go down there and what your role is going to be for CBS.
I'm again thrilled, honored to be one of a handful of announcers from the CBS team to go down there and cover this incredible major tournament. What I'm doing is I'll be doing Masters on the Range for CBS Sports Network. Typically, I join Bobby Clampett and Billy Kratzert. We'll check on all the team members when we get down there, but that's going to be 7 days. We're doing on the range from the Masters 7 days on CBS Sports Network, and then I switch over to DirecTV as a host and an analyst and work with a great group of guys, the production crew, the rest of the announcers. We're very fortunate. It's become like a family. Every year we meet down there and really get together and you all feel the excitement and the joy of putting these shows together, but to be part of the action there is amazing. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it sounds like a ton of fun. And say hi to Bobby for me, because
yeah.
I'm real good friends with Bobby. I'm actually an advanced impact zone instructor. And I just actually got that certification this year from Bobby. I've been with Impact Zone for about 3 years, and then moved into the advanced, version of that this year. And there's not a nicer guy on the planet than Bobby Clampett. He is such a great guy. Eventually, he's going to be a guest here on the show, just like you. We're looking forward to that.
That's right.
He's tied up right now, of course, getting ready for the Masters, and then also doing his schools down there in Fort Myers. But definitely when you see him, tell him that Bernie said hi.
Oh, for sure.
And he'll go like, "Oh yeah, how's it going?"
Yeah.
So he's such a great guy. But that sounds like it's going to be awesome. I wish that I had that opportunity to go down this year. But unfortunately for me, I just got too much going on here in the Philadelphia area. So tell us, because as we're wrapping up here, we're getting close to the end of this episode. But I just wanted to also let our Par Nation listeners and the viewers on YouTube know about the show that you're doing now, involved in on the Golf Channel. Tell us a little bit about that.
We're doing a show called Lesson T Live, which has been very exciting. And for the past, we've had 16 episodes getting back into 2014. And it's been just a ton of fun. Right now we're on a hiatus. So if you're looking for us on Wednesday nights from 8 to 9, you won't find Lesson T Live at the moment. We're hoping to return, but it's been loads of fun. And really what we're trying to do is a little bit of what you're trying to do, Bernard, and that's get a greater level of engagement from golf fans and players and even people who are interested in thinking about golf. So we've had a huge social media following. People are tweeting and Facebooking and Instagramming and sending their questions and their golf swings into us on the show where we can analyze them. For the past 16 shows, we've had a different guest instructor every show, which is what you're doing. And I think that adds a very neat element. You're getting different opinions and different perspectives from the very best teachers in the world of golf. So it's been a lot of fun, and we've had a lot of success with it. But right now, we're in a holding pattern, and hopefully we'll be back on the air soon.
Yeah, it's tough to do it this time of year because a lot of those instructors and yourself we're moving into the full season now, so there's a lot of other ththings that those guys have to do, and then probably, I guess, once you get back into where it's not quite as busy in the season, then they'll start to get it because it's a live show. So it's kind of hard to do a live show and then also conduct all the other things that you have going on in your life as an instructor and what those other instructors have going on. Yeah, no, it's been challenging from a scheduling standpoint, but during the Florida Swing, it was very easy. The PGA show, the off season provided a lot of opportunities for us to bring the very best in there. We've had Jim McLean, David Ledbetter, Hank Haney, the Harmon brothers. It's been a real blessing to spend some time with these great instructors and share their knowledge with the viewers. And it was a lot of fun. And frankly, I learned a lot myself. So I'm a sponge, just like I think all the best teachers in the world are. I want to learn as much as I can from these guys and gals. So it's been a great process, and it's made me a better teacher as well. So I take that knowledge back to Glen Arbor Golf Club and provide a better experience. I agree. I mean, I think it's the same thing here for me on this podcast, that I learn something new every single podcast, and there's so much insight to be learned from gentlemen like yourself and ladies who are wonderful instructors and have their own little twist on what they use with their students. And sometimes, that it hits home to certain people because it's a different point of view. It's not always the same person saying the same thing, and that might not hit home with every person. But sometimes there's just a little thing that someone else will say, and it'll just, bing, a little light bulb goes off in your head. Yep. And it definitely helps everybody. And I know that for me, it's just great having all these being able to learn from all these different people and interact with them and then also the opportunity to bring this to the masses and help grow the game. So, because I think that the more people understand how this game works, the easier it'll be for them.
Yeah, well, listen, you just said the magic words. We're trying to grow this game and really show as many people as we can how fun it can be and how rewarding it can be and how enriching it can be for your life, not just for competition and the game itself, but for life opportunities and experiences. So golf is such a great vehicle for all of that, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. As you know, I'm very involved with the PGA of America, so there are lots of programs we're trying to offer to reach a wider audience, and I'm doing my best with social media. You know, I'm a bit of a dinosaur. It took me 5 weeks to figure out this Skype thing. So, but I think if we can show people having success with golf and enjoying golf in different worlds, that's really important. I had a real neat opportunity to teach a real cool guy, Chad Coleman, who was an actor on The Walking Dead. So he came to me and we had a great lesson and we tweeted out a couple pictures, and now all of a sudden there's a whole different group of people that are thinking about golf because he golfs. And I think we need to really promote the successes we have. And if we do have some students that have a degree of celebrity, let's say, hey, would you mind if we take a quick picture and send it out there? And hopefully your fans will try the sport and go to a local PGA professional or an instructor like yourself and say, hey, you know what? I want to try this game. So I just think the key is, we've touched on a lot of cool things, finding fun ways to practice, finding ways to challenge yourself while you practice, and really trying different formats, trying different sets of tees. I mean, we want more people to enjoy this game and have fun with it. So,
and the best thing about it is that I'm talking to a host who summed it all up for me.
Darn it! Yeah,
That's great. I love that, Brian. It was an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Look, we're going to be looking for you at the Masters, and of course when Lesson T Live comes back on, we're going to be trying to see you there as much as possible, and all at least everybody here at Par Nation. And thanks so much for taking the time out. I know that you're really a busy guy, and it's well deserved. You've done a lot of things for golf, and I'm sure there's going to be a ton more that you're going to accomplish before your career is packed in, which is a long way from now, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of plans. I think everybody has to keep setting goals and try and do new things. And I really admire what you've been doing. You're doing the same thing. We're trying to grow the game, get as many people interested in it as we can. Here's one last shameless plug, but BrianCrowellGolf.com. If you want to check out some more interesting things and hopefully some ways to inspire you and get excited about golf, I encourage your viewers and listeners to check out that website. But I'm having a load of fun with the sport. I really appreciate this opportunity, Bernard, to be with you, and hopefully I'll have another chance. Give me another call. I'd be happy to come back.
Oh, that would be wonderful. So before we let you go, could we maybe get you to give us our email address so that if anybody wants to ask you questions personally, they can, or get in touch with you personally? Let's hear
that would be great. And I think the best way to get in touch with me would be Brian@BrianCrowellGolf.com. And I'm one of those I guys, okay? There's no Y in Brian. I don't trust those Brians with Ys in their names. So it's Brian@BrianCrowellGolf.com. And I'd be happy to engage your viewers and listeners and your audience. And if there's any way I can help them with their game, I'd be happy to do that.
Oh, we would love that. And I'm sure that there's many questions that they would want to ask you about instruction and also about things that you're doing in about the Masters, about the Golf Channel, about all that kind of stuff. So there's not a lot of guys who are dipping their toe in the water in so many places. So it's a great opportunity for our listeners to be able to pick the brain of a genuinely intelligent guy who really has all the best things at heart to help grow the game of golf.
Thank you, Bernard. Geez, I'm gonna copy that. I have to send that out. That was a beautiful statement. Thank you very much. This has been a treat, and like I said, just give me a call, and I'll be happy to come back with Bernard Sheridan at any time.
I appreciate that. So, what we always say here before we leave is, thanks for being on the show, and try to keep it in the short grass.
I'll do just that.
Okay, Brian. Thanks again. Take care.
Now you can take control of your game right now from your smartphone, tablet, or desktop. Just go to www.parbreakers.com/e-learning. That's www.parbreakers.com/e-learning. Your game will thank you for it.